I am Kedger on Two Wheels, and let's talk about daylight savings time. So here's the deal, it is 7 p.m. and look at the sky, it's completely dark. And at 6 p.m, which is the time at which I get off work, it is already very dark indeed. It's sunset basically, and with a little cloud cover, it's, well, basically nighttime already, which is ridiculous. I'm sure you guys in the more Nordic countries disagree, but here it should not be that we exit work at night, and this is because of daylight savings, and here's why. Daylight savings ended this weekend, and thus the clock went back 1 hour, meaning back or forwards? Hang on. Meaning when previously this would be 8 p.m, now it's 7 p.m. So it went back 1 hour. So 6 p.m. when I exit work was the old 7 p.m. time. And even so, sunset at 7 p.m. is a bit early, but okay, we can live with that. Now here's my gripe. Daylight savings was implemented so that countries would save money on energy, because you would optimize the hours of sunlight. That's why it's called daylight savings. Thing is, our own rulers, in their infinite wisdom, put us on the same time range as London, which is almost 1 hour back sunwise. So as a result, when daylight savings time turns on, or daylight savings summertime ends, we are now basically, as soon as I get off work, I have to turn on the lights of my house and keep them on because it's night already, which is retarded. If this were still summertime, I would have at least 1 hour of sunlight left, so houses would only need to start turning on their lights at 7 or even a bit later than that, so we would be saving money. On the other hand, in the morning, the sun rises now at something like 6 a.m. What? Who is going to be using daylight at 6 a.m? No one. So daylight savings should have been tuned so that the sun would come up at, say, 8, which would be when the earliest businesses would open. So the businesses wouldn't need to have their lights on at that time. And that way you'd have daylight at the end of the day too. In Portugal we should not be at GMT, we should be at GMT -1. So our summertime would be the normal time. So we get the weird effect that in the summer sun sets at something like 10 p.m, or at 10 p.m. there's still light, 9 p.m. there's still loads of light, and then in the winter 6 p.m. and it's dark. Sometimes, or at least at the very shortest day, it's like 5:30 or 5 p.m. and it's already darkening. It sucks. I'll have to do the math more correctly, because this is not quite as simple as I'm saying, but still we are not on the correct time. We should be on GMT -1 and probably not even use daylight savings time for the summer, because it's a bit ridiculous for the sun to set at 10 p.m. and we wouldn't really need it. But we could use still being on summertime during the winter, so we would at least be somewhat related to the sun, the astronomical midday, instead of being 1 hour in front of it. God, this irritates me quite a lot, especially since I began riding, because now I have to bring my clear visor every single day. So continuing with my reasoning, which might probably be kinda wrong, at least in the first part, the whole thing is that Portugal is 1 hour ahead in solar time, meaning when it is noon in Britain at Greenwich, which is the time we're using, we are actually still at 11 a.m. solar time. So that means that during the summer we are when we put on daylight savings time, then we are at the solar time, meaning midday is midday solar time, meaning at noon the sun is directly up. Thing is, come winter and then suddenly we're back 1 hour because we're following a no, actually in summer we are still 1 hour behind, and then in the winter we are 2 hours behind. So that's why the sun sets at 5:30 p.m. when it should actually be setting at 6:30 p.m. solar. I'm not really sure why we are like that. Some European countries have it even worse. For example, Spain, which is right next door, is on GMT -1. So the sun sets, while here the sun will set, say, 5:30. On the most western parts of Spain, the sun will set at 4:30. Especially in, I think it's Galicia, which is that northern little tip of Spain, which is right above Portugal, which is very retarded. So yeah, daylight savings, it used to be, when it was implemented, was a good idea, and then it was pummeled into the ground. Doesn't really make sense anymore. Actually, do you know what would really make sense? It would be for every single clock to be actually on the same time. Meaning, sun would set at, say, 8 a.m. here, and it would sun would rise at 8 a.m. and would set, say, 5:30. But in New Zealand, the sun would rise at 9 p.m. and it would set at, say, 6 a.m. And so that would mean that the time would be just world time, and some people would go to work from 9 to 6, others would go to work from 12 to 4, because that would be their sunlight time there. You know what I'm saying? Meaning the hour, it wouldn't really be AM or PM. We'd have to shift to the 24-hour clock for that, obviously. But meaning that the time on the clock would have nothing to do with the time on the sun, or very little to do. It would be as if everyone was going on England time periods, GMT or Zulu time, and that would be just about it. That would actually be a bit confusing at first, but think of the advantages. There would be no issues with, say, different time zones. Oh, when does Formula 1 start? It's in Brazil, so it's 9, it's like 5 p.m. there, so it's 3 p.m. here. No, that would go right out the window. For the big countries like America and Russia and big wide countries, there would be no issue with Eastern Seaboard time, Western time, Central time. It would be the same time. The only difference would be that, the only disadvantage would be that work times would be highly different. Some people would work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Others would work like 11 to 9. Others would be working from 2300 hours to, say, 900, because that's where the sun was. It would be a bit, that would be a bit weird. But then again, international contacts would be very easy to arrange because they would be all on the same time. So yeah, that's just my little 2 cents concerning time, and that's not likely to change ever. Yeah, so that's it. Gauge your routes.